Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came to be through him, and without him nothing came to be. What came to be through him was life, and this life was the light of the human race. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. A man named John was sent from God. He came for testimony, to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him. But the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, but his own people did not accept him. But to those who did accept him, he gave power to become children of God. To those who believe in his name, who were born not by natural generation, nor by human choice, nor by a man's decision, but of God. And the Word became flesh, and made his dwelling among us. And we saw his glory, the glory as of the Father's only begotten Son, full of grace and truth. John testified to him and cried out, saying, "This was he of whom I said, 'The one who is coming after me ranks ahead of me, because he existed before me.' From his fullness we have all received grace in place of grace. Because while the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. The only begotten Son, God, who is at the Father's side, has revealed him." The Gospel of the Lord. I'll just point out a couple of things about the first reading, then I'd like to talk about the Gospel. So you guys know I've talked a lot about the book of Revelation and about 70 AD and the end of the world, and one of the things I've talked to you guys about is how there's a misunderstanding that the earliest Christians, they all thought the world was going to end very soon. And this reading today is one of those readings you can understand somebody reading the New Testament and they'll get that impression. Children, it is the last hour. Just as you heard the Antichrist was coming, so now many Antichrists have come. Thus we know this is the last hour. And this is a very common New Testament text that people read, and they think this about the earliest Christians. It's always important to remember a couple of things. First of all, what many people think the New Testament says about the end of the world is not actually in the New Testament. Right? Like many people think that the rapture and the Antichrist is the whole subject of the book of Revelation. Neither of those words appear anywhere. The only time we hear about the Antichrist is here in the first letter of St. John. And St. John doesn't describe a single Antichrist, but rather many Antichrists. Later on, he clarifies, this is the spirit of the Antichrist, he who denies that Jesus is the Son of God, come in the flesh. So John understood that the Antichrist wasn't so much one singular person, but rather a spirit of resistance towards the coming of Christ's kingdom. And in some ways, it really did come to a head in the days of 70 AD. It was a very tumultuous time. But I personally think, and I regret, I haven't been able to find a good resource out there, but I wish somebody would write a doctoral dissertation on this specific idea, trying to take the different texts in the New Testament and pointing how they're alluding to 70 AD rather than the end of the world. But fortunately, no. But maybe someday I'll go get a doctorate. Maybe I'll write a dissertation on it. That'd be great. Anyway, so that's just the first reading, some comments about that, but I really want to focus on the gospel today. First of all, Bible trivia. What are the first three words of the entire Bible? In the beginning. In the beginning. What's the last word of the Bible? Amen. Amen. All right, random Bible trivia. So here in the Gospel of John, we heard from the very first verses of his gospel. And he knows that the Old Testament starts with the words, in the beginning. And so John begins his revelation of the New Testament with the same words, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. I want to focus on this because this is something that I think is crucially important in our culture today. The word in Greek that is translated as the word here, it's a Greek word called logos. Anybody ever heard of the word logos? and I'm sure a few of you. The Logos, thankfully, has actually been made more well-known in recent days in our modern culture because of a psychologist in Canada named Jordan Peterson. He talks a lot about the Logos. Pope Benedict XVI was also talked a lot about this idea of the Logos. The early Christian fathers, the early church fathers, they put a huge emphasis on this word, Logos. Why? What does Logos mean? One way to translate Logos is, of course, word, which is how we have it in most English translations. But Logos had a much larger significance in ancient cultures. The Logos was seen as that which ordered the entire world. Right? It's where we get the word logic from, or dialogue. Many English words come from this word Logos. So yes, it can mean word which is spoken, but it also is like the harmonizing principle of all things, the reason behind everything, that which orders all things. And John here says that not only did the ancient people believe that there was a Logos somewhere out there that ordered all things, and that the essence of wisdom was to understand this Logos, John says that that Logos, that ordering principle, took on flesh, became a human person. It's kind of a striking phrase when you think about it in that way. The reason I think it's important for our culture to reclaim this is because sometimes when we talk about our modern age, we talk about it as an anti-Christian culture, a culture that is against the church and it's against religion and Christianity. But I think at an even more basic level, our culture is a rebellion against the Logos. When you think about Western civilization, going all the way back to the ancient Greeks of Plato and Aristotle and the other philosophers, and the early Christian teachers in the Middle Ages, what people understood at the heart of Western civilization, at the heart of education, is they understand that wisdom meant to understand how all things fit together. There is a creator and a design of the whole cosmos. And the whole goal of our human existence is to understand what brings all things together and the creator and designer behind it all. In our modern age, what we are witnessing is a total rejection of that idea. There is no order to the universe. There is no design behind all things. There is no creator. The goal of life is not to contemplate and understand how all things fit together, but rather to reject these notions that have been imposed on us for centuries, and to impose our own design of the universe, define our own meaning of existence. That's the goal of the modern age. And it was the goal of the devil in the very beginning, rejecting and rebelling against the beautiful order of God. I think it's crucially important that we reclaim these ideas. And you can see it even in the church. So often people in the church will still say things like, well, I'm Catholic, but there's these things that I reject about the church. What is that? It's that same spirit that rejects the order of things, that rejects the design that God himself has created and handed to us. And it seeks to impose our own arbitrary freedom above the great order and beautiful design of God.